What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Pickleball Connection podcast. I'm Danea.
And I'm Barrett.
And we're stoked to be hanging out with you today. Today, we're going to be doing what we call CTN or Cruise the News. This is where we talk about the latest pickleball news, goss, and all the fun, juicy rec play topics. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. Danea and I just got back from a week-long trip in Kansas City. We were filming some stuff for playpickleball.com. If you don't know what that is, shameless plug, go subscribe to the playpickleball.com YouTube channel. A new video comes out every Wednesday, and it's instructional content, how to play. It's great for like beginner, intermediate level, and we're kind of roll out some more advanced stuff as well.
It's low-key the best pickleball YouTube channel, so go check it out.
Yes, and then second half of the trip, we were kind of in and out of the PPA.
Selkirk sponsored.
The Selkirk Kansas City Open, which is a PPA tour. The Professional Pickleball Association was in Kansas City. So that was a lot of fun. We're going to talk a little bit about our experience later on in the podcast. But our first topic of the day, if you are someone that is on Facebook at all and you are in the Dink or the Kitchen or any of the pickleball forums on Facebook, you've probably seen a lot of people posting about the Johns brothers. Now, if you don't know, Ben and Collin Johns have been the top dog. They're brothers. Ben is considered the best player in the world on the men's side. He's been teaming up with his older brother for the past few years. They've been dominant at the top of the rankings, and this year they have not been so dominant. So they've continued to get eliminated. This happened again this weekend in Kansas City. The Johns brothers were knocked out. I believe it was in the quarterfinals by Fed Stackstrud and Gabe Tardio. If not the quarters, it was the semis. But it was the semifinals because they went to the bronze medal match and lost. So,
they lost in the bronze medal.
Yes. From what I saw, Hayden and Christian Alshon won bronze.
No way. Wow.
Unless I missed it and I didn't watch the match, so unless I missed it and they forfeited, they did not get bronze. Okay. So, anyways,
forfeit is still a loss though. So.
The Johns brothers did not medal yet again, and this is becoming common. So, the talk around town is because Ben is the best men's player in the world. Is Collin holding him back? Are they going to continue to partner together? Should they split up? This has kind of been a buzz amongst the pro scene. So we saw a lot of posts online about it, and I wanted to get your take on it. What do you think is going to happen with the Johns bros? Do you think they're going to stay together, split up? What do you think is coming for the best men's doubles team in the world?
So it's really crazy because at the very beginning of the year, I was giving like my opinion, my pickleball hot takes for 2024. And I said, I bet we're not going to see Ben on the singles podium much longer. But in my mind, I thought him and Collin would be dominant still in men's doubles. And what's crazy is they haven't been. And that's not a knock on them either as players. I think they're both amazing players, but I just think the player pool is getting more and more competitive. And we're having people rise up like Fed, Hayden, Gabe, even Andre was up there for a while. And so I know he's been out from stuff, but all that to say, it's not like Ben and Collin have gotten worse, but the game has changed and players have really stepped up. And so, yeah, like I mean, a fact is a fact. A trend is a trend. They haven't been getting gold. Like, I don't know how you can argue that. And it's repeatedly. It's not just like one-offs.
Yeah, Gabe Tardio has kind of becoming known as the Johns Bros Killers.
He's like their kryptonite.
He's knocked them out a couple times with Andre Deescu
And
and
Fed.
and now Fed. So yes, they have run into some trouble, and I think the talk around town is the as the game is evolving. It's getting faster. Paddles are getting hotter. The game's moving at a faster pace. They like to play slow, methodical pickleball, really setting up and in control of the point. Kind of grind you out, grind you to death with kind of the slow game, and kind of force you to counter or force you to speed up, and then they're there for the counter. That's kind of their game, but that's not really the trend of pickleball. It's getting faster. So a lot of people think that pickleball is just kind of evolving, and they're not the best team anymore because of that. Do you think it's because pickleball is evolving, or do you think the players are just getting that much better?
I think it's both. I think the game is evolving a little bit from how the Johns have traditionally played. I think what we're seeing, tell me if I'm wrong, this is my opinion. I feel like what we're seeing in the pro scene, especially men's doubles, is the right side player is no longer just your dink cross court and have good defense and keep the ball in play. You see these teams that have taken Ben and Collin down have had really good offense from the right side. And that's the one thing that I feel like Ben and Collin lack as a team together is I don't feel like Collin has developed a lot of offense from the right side. And don't get me wrong, Collin has great defense. I think he's a fantastic player. It's not a knock on Collin, but I do think that the teams that we are seeing win have just more weapons in their pockets from the right side than Collin does currently.
Yeah, I think Gabe Tardio is in a lot of ways kind of redefining the right. He's very aggressive on the right side, and I think we're seeing that more and more in pickleball. Is that especially in men's and women's? I think when you're playing mixed doubles, you'll see a lot of times players will sink into their roles, and the women will kind of take on a more supportive role. Kind of being that rock, letting the man be really aggressive in the middle. That's just kind of the way you see the pros do it. But amongst men's and a lot of times in women's too, we're starting to see more offense from the right. We're starting to see the right side is not just a supportive role. The reason that the left side, if you're not familiar, is usually more dominant is because usually the forehand's in the middle if you have two right-handed players. So it can be a little different if there's a lefty out on the court, but I think what we're seeing is the game's evolving, and it's no longer a defensive kind of supportive role. I think the right side is there's a need to be aggressive. And I actually heard another pro talk about Collin's game and say, it's not that Collin doesn't have offense from the right side. He just doesn't use it. I think he does have offensive shots, but you're playing alongside the best player in the world. So it's like, you probably let him be offensive and you could just sink into your role. So it'd be really interesting to see what.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think, what do you think is going to happen here? Because obviously Ben and Collin are losing together. Do you think that they're going to continue to play together for the rest of the year and continue to just maybe win, lose? Or do you think that Ben's going to find another partner?
I do think that we'll see some things change. I don't really know when that will be, but Ben being the best player in the world, I'm sure, there's a chip on your shoulder, and, it makes news, it makes headlines when you don't win and you're the best player in the world.
Yeah.
So I think he probably does have some pressure to maintain that status from the PPA tour, from his sponsors. He wants to win medals, and if it's not working, you would think that we would see something switch up. I heard a take on Zane's podcast, and he mentioned he could see Collin taking kind of a leave of absence from the PPA tour, going and just training really hard for a couple months. Ben can play with a couple other partners, see how it goes, and then Collin can kind of come back and they can see if they can.
Dude, but what if he starts winning with other partners?
Which probably would happen, to be honest. I mean, then they'd have a decision to make. But I think we'll see. Obviously they're brothers too, so it's not just
fam.
it's not just like they're partners, but I think we're going to see that. I saw some in some of these forums that we're referring to online, which we'll link in the description. I did notice that some people were kind of talking about like, the Olympics is like a big buzz right now. And we know that sadly, pickleball wasn't on the approved list for 2028. But should it slide in somehow to Olympics 2028 in LA, or should it debut in 2032, which would be in Australia, in Brisbane? At that point, Ben's still pretty young, so he could potentially represent the U.S. And it's like, if I don't know, like if they got into the Olympics this year, who would we have sent? Who would represent the U.S. on the men's side? Probably Ben and Collin. But I don't think that's going to continue to happen. I think that we're going to see a shift. And I want to know, though, from you guys that are listening, if you could assemble a team to represent the USA, or maybe just a super team, who would you put together? Would you pick like a Fed and a Tardio who just won?
Ben and Tardio. Yeah,
I think there's some interesting ideas there, interesting matchups. But I think like we were talking about this, I could see, Fed kind of has his choice because he won with Hayden this year. He won with Gabe Tardio. And I think we'll see him and Tardio stick together because they both live in Florida.
Yeah, they both train together.
They train kind of together. They're very familiar with each other's games, and they honestly did really well. I mean, you got to realize they just won gold, taking some big teams down, and this was their first tournament together.
And is this right? They won 3 games out of 3 games straight for the gold, didn't they?
Yeah. They swept.
They swept them,
which we saw Fed sweep Dylan and J-Dub with Hayden. Yeah. So he swept him. I think maybe Fed's the Dylan and J-Dub killer, and Tardio is the Johns killer. That's why they made it there. That was an impressive thing about their victory, was that they had to beat the Johns brothers and Dylan and J-Dub, and they did that. So arguably the top 2 men's teams in the world, they took them down.
Yep.
So anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Let us know what you guys think should happen. Who should Ben pick up? Or should he drop Collin, or should he stick it out? Or what do you think is going to happen? Let us know in the comments.
You ready for the next one?
Yeah, I believe, I could be wrong, but are we going to rec play for this one?
We're going to go to rec play.
I love these.
You guys know rec play is a jungle. Like, it's just crazy. So I'm reading this anonymous post, and it's titled, "Don't be a beep partner. Jerk." Other word for jerk, okay?
Don't be an a-hole.
I wasn't going to say it. Thank you.
We try to keep this podcast
PG
per our sponsor's request.
We love you, Selkirk. Okay, here we go. This person says, "I was playing outside of my usual area, so I didn't know anyone. My partner was a solid 4-0, and I'm a 3-5. And we were going up against players that I'd like to put around 3-5 and 3-0 based on this one game. In general, this was a relatively weak group of drop-in players. Anyway, the 3-0 guy was not having a good game, and his partner was just being a huge beep jerk to him the entire game. After every missed shot, he'd chew him out. At one point, he said, 'I'll give you $1,000 if you stop hitting it in the net.' And it wasn't even constructive at all. One time, the 3-0 fed me a really juicy ball at the net, and I crushed it. And his partner said, 'Why didn't you lob him?' And the other guy was like, 'I tried to.' And honestly, what else do you want from him? Who among us hasn't hit a lob that has gotten insta-crushed? These things just happen. It was really uncomfortable. We were up 9-4, and we actually ended up losing. My partner admitted that we basically threw the game straight unforced errors at the end because we felt sorry for the guy." He goes on to talk about it later. And then he says an edit. And he said, "I forgot to mention the worst player that the guy was chewing out was an older guy, maybe 60 plus, yelling at an old man on top of this." He says, "There's never a reason to be anything but supportive of your partner. And this goes for rec play." What do you think?
I think my issue is that, here's the thing. I remember we were at a local park one time. I don't know if you remember what I'm referring to, but I saw like a guy in his like low 30s get into like a heated argument with an older man, but they were on opposite sides of the court. They were on opposite teams. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
No, I
We were
don't.
on that bike day and we stopped and it was the court next to us. We were biking around and we biked to that
Oh,
one.
yeah. I remember.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
There was like this yelling battle that took place on the court next to us, and it was like the age difference between them had to be 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty wild, uncomfortable. But when you're on the same team as somebody and you're chewing them out and you have that age gap,
It's like a grandpa.
that's wild. That's wild. Are there any stories you can think of that come to mind, like at a rec play when you've seen somebody get really mad? Like not even if they're on the same team or not.
I haven't seen one as blatantly rude as like this situation, I feel like. I definitely know like we can get snippy with each other. Like husband wives, I feel like are a little bit more
But we're not
unfiltered.
like we're not like vocal.
We're not no,
We're not like yelling at
we're not
each
like
other.
I'm gonna give you $1,000 if you stop hitting it in the net.
It's more so kind of like side eyes and like
Yeah.
like under our like we're not like vocalizing it. We're kind of just vocalizing it to each other, but not publicly, I guess.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes people can hear us, but
It's not that bad, guys. It's not that bad. Sometimes.
But I haven't like seen something quite as blatant like this. But this would mortify me. If I was on the other side of the net, I would feel so bad.
Would you ever interject?
I think, well, actually, no, I take it back. I take it back.
You've seen this before?
I've seen something like this before. I've seen where a guy almost made a girl cry and it made my blood boil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, were they the same age?
Yeah, like same age-ish. And like this guy was just like chewing this girl out. And I was like, it was so uncomfortable. I wish I interjected, honestly.
What would you have said?
I wish I would have said something like, hey, like, you should never talk to a lady like that or a human like that. Like, it was just really, really rude.
I feel like you would need to see, like, I don't know, actually. I feel like you would need to hear that from like a guy, though. Because he's already speaking poorly to ladies. Like, is he going to respect that coming from a lady?
Maybe not, but like, I wish I just would have said something because I didn't. And looking back, I wish I would have. Like, I wish I would have stood up for her.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Standing up for her, or even like pulling her aside and just being like, "Hey, you deserve better than that."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think that what we forget about is on the pickleball court, people are coming a lot of times from work or from their day, and sometimes people just have a bad day. I know I've like had to apologize to people on the court before because something like snapped, like kind of just came out. I've never like yelled at anybody in the way that I've gotten in a fight with anybody or anything like that, but I've had to apologize to people on the court before. Just say, hey man, like, sorry, I kind of snapped back at you there. I had a rough day today. I think sometimes people just have tough days and we have to realize that, but I don't think it's ever okay to be just blatantly rude over and over again.
Yeah.
For this like sounded like in this situation, it went on like for the entire game.
Yeah.
It's not just one comment. Like usually if I have to apologize, I just, somebody will call a ball out that I thought was in and I'll be like, are you sure? Like that looked pretty, like it's kind of that type of stuff. But when you're like demeaning,
you're being such a jerk.
When you're demeaning someone's character, that's pretty rough.
Or not even, I mean, it doesn't sound like he was demeaning his character, but he was demeaning this guy's every shot. And like, you just, as a partner, if you are constantly hearing criticism after criticism and humiliation after humiliation, if I'm that partner, that's not going to make me play good. That's not going to make me want to play good. That's going to make me hyper grip the paddle and be super tense. And like, as a partner, you want to be supportive and encouraging. And like, I want to feel like if I make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. So I
don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, I obviously wouldn't mention his name, but I had like a blind date kind of with a partner. We played 5-0 men's. And I think this was like a year and a half or 2 years ago. I think it was my first time playing 5-0 men's and I was playing with him. Or it might have been my first or second. And we got a really tough team in the first round. It was really close, and it was like tied like 5-5 or 6-6. And they kind of went on a run to win game one. And I had made a couple back-to-back errors. And it's like he just started rolling his eyes, he kind of threw in the towel and like just stopped trying. And it did not make me feel good when I felt his energy, his kind of like, I felt him, not supporting me, but like I could see on his face, I could hear what was coming out of his mouth, frustration, annoyance. And yeah, you're right. You don't play good when your partner does that.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you really want to win, it would be smart. It'd be much smarter to not like degrade your partner, but build them up if you're really trying to win.
Yeah.
If you really want them to start hitting better shots.
Also, I know this is a side note, and this is like maybe old school to think about, but for me, it's important. Treat your elders with some respect, man. Like, if I see a precious grandpa or grandma on the court, like, be kind, be more kind, like, treat that like you would treat your own grandparents. And I hope you would treat your grandparents really freaking well.
Yeah.
Because they've gone through a lot of life. They have a lot more wisdom than you. And there's just a respect level I feel like this generation is losing for that age group. And it makes me sad.
I totally agree. Amen. Come on. It's good. No, it is. I think
it is. I'm like,
I do think
have some respect.
I think, unfortunately, I don't know if it's the next generation or the time that we live in, but I think respect kind of is going out the window for people in general. There's a lot more artificial type relationships online and scrolling. And I just think we kind of are losing the connection of like, this is the Pickleball Connection podcast. So we're getting deep here. But we're kind of losing that connection of just the humanness of people around us and like just treating other people the way you want to be treated, and I think it's huge. I think I totally agree with you. We should respect our elders. So yeah, that's for you elderly people that are listening.
Yeah, for real. Thank you for everything you've done. You've paved the way for us in so many ways. And I want to see, this is getting a lot deeper, but I want to see us and everybody treat people older than us with respect. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. So I can tell that you were, if I asked you what you thought about this article, I can tell you're pretty thrilled with this guy's
I'm not thrilled.
Interactions.
I'm not thrilled.
Yeah. Would you have, like, if you were the other team, would you have thrown the game like they did?
I don't know if I would have thrown the game.
I can't picture you ever throwing the game.
I don't know if I would have thrown the game, but I definitely would. Honestly, I probably would try to target the other person just because I'd probably feel bad for the guy.
So you would try to shut the other person up with some body bags.
Yeah, and then I would talk to the other person after the game, and I would be like, dude, don't ever partner with someone like that again. You deserve to be treated way better.
Come on, Danea for president, everybody. Everybody, if you agree with me in the comments, just type Danea for president.
I'm dead.
Okay, guys, let us know, as always, what you think in the comments. Though.
Yeah, what would you do in that situation if you were playing somebody, like a team across the net, and they were being mean to their partner? What would you do? I actually am looking for some constructive feedback here.
Yeah, let us know. We always want your feedback, and we want your questions. If you type a good question, it can be completely off topic, but if you type a good question in the comments, if you're consuming this on YouTube, on Selkirk TV, do it that way. Or if you can fill in a comment in whatever way you're consuming this podcast, or DM playpickleball.com on Instagram, whatever you want to do. We'd love to answer your questions. But should we move to the next topic?
Yep.
Hey guys, real quick, we do want to briefly mention Selkirk backpacks. We really love the backpacks that Selkirk has put out. They're really functional, really versatile. They look really sharp. We use them when we play, and we use them when we travel.
Actually, last time we were in the airport, we packed our Selkirk backpacks for basically our luggage, and the person behind us was like, whoa, like those are such cool backpacks. Like, it's awesome.
They're like, where'd you get them?
Yeah, it's just, they're super functional. They have a bunch of different sizes. I take stuff for work and mine and bring it to a coffee shop. I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, guys, so if you're in the market for a backpack, there's all different sizes, all different colors. Head on over to selkirk.com and get yours today. Our next topic is not a article post. It's not a forum post, a news article. But Danae and I did just get back from Kansas City, like we mentioned. We both played 5-0. We did not play mixed because we had to fly out on Sunday. But we played 5-0 men's, and I played 5-0 men's. She played 5-0 women's. Both blind dates. Honestly, our partners were both really nice.
So nice.
I really liked both of them a lot. But we're going to talk about kind of our takeaways from the tournament as far as like our personal game, what we noticed. I think it's really cool when you play a tournament. You're not playing the same people that you play every time at rec, and there's more of a pressurized situation. And I think playing a tournament, if you've never played one, is a great way to learn what you need to work on and get better at. So kind of want to open it up with that. Is there any takeaways that you have from the tournament as far as what you kind of want to work on with your game, or that you noticed from other people's games, or that you just picked up kind of words for the wise here?
So, okay, I'm going to start with things that I did well, and then I'm going to end with things I want to do better.
Yeah.
So things that I did well this tournament, I did not shy away from my lob, and it paid off. Like, I always talk about how, you guys, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn.
She's got
Maybe
a good
I
lob.
am,
She's
but
got a good
I
lob.
have a killer lob. And sometimes I get in a tournament setting and I just like don't use it. This tournament, I went and I was like, no, I'm going to use my lob. And I
was watching one of your games.
I shut some people
and
down.
I think you lobbed this chick like 3 times in the same point.
Yeah, I definitely.
I actually think they actually still won the point, but I was like,
shoot, dude.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know how.
Dang it. Well, honestly, it paid off mostly.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that I did that. I feel like I can get really tight and be like, it's like too risky, but like.
Yeah, it's such a good shot.
Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what I want to do better.
Yeah.
So definitely, I notice, especially at a higher level, okay, when the play level is pretty even, like you're pretty on par with your team that you're playing against. You know who wins the match?
Who?
Whoever adjusts quicker. Whoever creates a new game plan to expose the other team quicker. So, for example, like we were neck and neck with this team, and honestly, the reason they won is because they switched up their game style and we didn't.
So like they started hitting the ball to different locations on the court. They started playing.
They just
faster,
had a different
slower.
strategy. Yeah, they had a different strategy, and we didn't adjust our strategy to readjust to their strategy, if that makes sense.
So you guys kind of kept the same strategy the whole game.
Yes. And then when we tried, it was just too late.
So what was the strategy that you guys had for the whole game? Like that you kept?
So for example, like this team was playing pretty fast, and then we were kind of playing into it. And then they were winning points. So we were like, okay, well, we're going to play slow. And then when we were playing slow, it was kind of working. But then they readjusted and they started maybe attacking a little bit more off the slow balls. And looking back, I'm like, shoot, I wish I would have initiated more attacks instead of letting them initiate the attacks. So
that is true in pickleball. You find something that works, but good teams will adjust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I feel like when it comes down to it at more advanced levels, when you feel like this is like pretty neck and neck, I feel like the team that wins is the one that adjusts quicker. And looking back, I'm like, wish I would have adjusted quicker. And I've told myself this during rec play as of late. I wish I would have been doing it more. But in rec play, I'm trying to do that. Like actually have a purpose with what I'm doing instead of just like, I'm just going to win the game. But like actually practicing in rec play. Okay, I'm going to switch my strategy to this, or I'm going to switch my strategy to this. That way you're practicing in rec play what you're putting into practice in tournaments. So anyway, that's my spiel. How about you?
I learned that I choke and crumble in pressurized environments. I'm pretty bad when it comes to tournament play. No. I mean, neither of our teams had the greatest results, but like I think when you play 5-0
We had good teams. There were teams that were in the qualies in my bracket.
Yeah, there's good teams at 5. I mean, PPAs. I think the tournament's usually pretty big because people travel for them. There was like over 30 teams in our bracket. I think we got a really tough draw. In the sense that the team that we played first, within the two teams that knocked us out, they finished 3-4 or 4-5 out of the 30 in the standings. So we got some tough matchups, and I think that sometimes you just get. I mean, both the teams we lost to, we played a lefty righty. I don't know why. I kind of like lefties are my.
I always get the lefties too.
Lefties are my kryptonites in tournaments. I think I go in thinking that the game plan is going to be one thing, but it's just not. So kind of maybe like you, I think it's important to adjust. I also think that I need to play more tournaments. I think that's a takeaway because I think. I really haven't played. I think I played 2 or 3 tournaments in the last 2 years that have been logged on Duper, that have been, that are sanctioned tournaments. That not just. I mean, I've played maybe some local type stuff, right? Some for funsies type stuff. But I think when there's more pressure on the line, I think one of the things that happens is I think I kind of get into this mindset where I don't want to make a mistake. And I think it's one thing to play a tournament where you're like, I don't want to make a mistake. And you're trying to eliminate your weaknesses and you kind of forget to play to your strengths. So I think that's something I took away is like being confident in my shots and realizing it's okay to make a mistake. Obviously the teams that win and go deep usually are the teams that eliminate errors the most. But if you're so focused on not making an error that you're never mixing in a drive or you're never initiating a speed up, like you said, you're just kind of playing defensive because you're trying to make less errors than them. It just doesn't really play to, you don't get that momentum. You don't get that. So I think that's something that I really take away is, realize as a player, your identity, what are your strengths? And when you go into a tournament, don't shy away from them. I think me and my partner in the last game we played, my partner had a really good drop, like put a lot of pressure with his drop, like it really dips and gets over the net. And so we'd never played together. So we decided to kind of put him on the left so that he could take more of those drops in the middle and we could get up there. But, I think that's another takeaway from me. I think I need to practice the right more. I think you and I play a lot when we go out. And I think I kind of sunk into this supportive role on the right, which is kind of like what we talked about earlier in the podcast, that I think you can still be aggressive even if you're playing the right. You can still initiate, you can still drive, you can still, you don't have to sink into this defensive role. And I think that I kind of got a little overly defensive. And I think that's something that I want to work on my right side play. I want to work on being aggressive from the right side. And then also just work on playing loose and playing to my strengths, not tensing up and tightening up. So I think that those were some big takeaways. I honestly am like hungry to play more tournaments since playing. Do you feel like that when you come back? Like I want to go.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, I'm a little pissed at my Duper rating right now because I don't know. I think I learned this, but like the thing has dropped like 0.5 points in the last 2 tournaments. 0.5. I played 2 tournaments in the last 2 years though. And I think what I learned is that the fewer tournaments you play,
it affects it more.
I think that the fewer times you log matches and the fewer tournaments you play, I think it affects each game weighs for more because you have less of a reliability score. So I think it just kind of made me want to, play more than 2 or 3 tournaments in a year. And really feel like I can have an accurate representation of what my rating is,
Right.
But I also haven't been performing well. The last 2 tournaments have been early exits, early entries for me. So maybe I deserve to be rated what I'm rated, But I think at the end of the day, I want to play more tournaments. I want to work on my right side play. I want to be aggressive and be in the sense of not necessarily just speeding everything up or driving everything, but playing to my strengths and not getting into that like kind of defensive, I can't make a mistake tensing up type of thing. Because I think I did that. I think we played really well at times, and I think it was easy to kind of sink into that defensive role. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But guys, I would be very curious. I really will go back and read these comments. I would love to hear in the comments what you guys have to say about tournament play. Have you guys picked up any tips that have helped you in tournament play? Have you guys struggled in tournaments? Do you play better? Do you play worse? And let us know kind of, I think it's really interesting. I think obviously drilling pressurized situations and playing kind of like what you said with rec play, kind of learning to play more like a tournament is it going to be really helpful? I want to pick up on some of that too, but I'd love to hear from you guys and kind of what you guys have to say about tournament play.
I love it.
So when's our next one?
I thought there's one we're going to sign up for in September.
Yeah, I've never played one of the team style events. I really want to. Have you? That's another. You're laughing at me.
We asked them like 40 questions. We're like, what would you guys say to this?
Basically,
I think we're going to do a minor league tournament. So we're pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Really quick before we go. He's gonna keep going. Really quick before we go, you guys, if you're listening to this on Spotify or any of those other platforms, can you do us a huge freaking solid and rate this podcast 5 stars out of 5? If you're rating it lower, hold off. Give us another chance on an episode. But seriously, the ratings really help the podcast grow. So it would mean a ton for us if you could go do that.
Okay, but I just want to go back. I'm just kidding. I was kind of rambling at the end.
Okay.
So I'm just kidding.
We're going to wrap it up.
We're going to sign off there, guys. But thanks so much for hanging out with us on today's episode. And we'll see you on the next one.